Alright, welcome back to another vid. There we are, sneaking into camera there. Friday Brew. I'll have a slurp. Yeah, I know it's not Friday, but let's just slide past that. It's the weekend brew. How about that? Yeah, I've had 2 months off of not doing anything. It's been brilliant. And I'm not going to lie, a lot of you will know when you've kind of gone through a period of inactivity on YouTube, it becomes very, very easy to just kind of go, do you know what, I might just slip out the back door a little bit. But the thing is, I do love making vids. I always have and I always will. It's just sometimes, for me, being lazy, summoning the enthusiasm to do it. But every time I sit down and do it, it's because I want to do it. So this isn't forced. I'm ready to do it. I want to do it. I'm happy to do it. But yeah, it's not unusual as well for me to go like a good couple of months without making vids. It has happened several times over the years, but of course I've had a channel for a long time. Yeah, now, I tell you what I've sort of discovered, and a lot of you'll be watching this go, well, yeah, I could have told you this. And I sort of knew this anyway, but it's really registered. And it's the previous vlogs, maybe they went on just a little bit too long. Maybe they did, you know, 1 hour 40 minutes, 1 hour 50 minutes, I think one of them was. And it's taking the piss a little bit. That said, this is still going to be a long vid because I don't do short vids. I don't like them. I like watching them, but I don't really like making them. When I make vids, I like them to be fairly long. Even a pickup vid for me is 30, 40 minutes. Like people who just, no offense, I can't think of anyone in particular, but if someone just like holds a game up straight away and holds another, and then they've done their pickup video in a few minutes, that to me is like, that's rubbish. Don't do that. Show a game, talk about it. Why did you buy it? You know, how much did it cost if you want to disclose that? You know, does it hold memories? Did someone recommend it to you? What do you think of it? You know, all those kind of things. That's what I like. I like a bit of a backstory. So, yeah, I just don't do short vids. But they do need to be shorter than 1 hour 40 minutes. That was taking a piss. And I think by watching segments of previous brews back recently, almost a tongue twister, that one, I discovered that, I mean, the segments, which there's not going to be a segment in this particular brew of what am I currently listening to, or what am I currently watching. I'll explain in a second. But just using the listening to, like music, what I'm listening to, using that as an example. In previous blogs or vlogs, I was showing off like 4 and 5 records. And that was like taking 25 minutes. And do you really care? Maybe you do. Maybe you're curious to see 1 or 2. But you need to see 4 or 5? I don't think you do. Because that's what the music vids are for. Or that's what they should be for. So I'm not going to put a segment of what I'm currently listening to in this one. Just simply to shorten the vid, because it's my first video for 2 months. But going forward, they will come back into it, into the vlogs. But maybe I'll just show 1 or maybe 2. Not 4 and 5. It's kind of crazy. Same with things I've been watching. Instead of like 2 or 3, just talk about 1. It makes things much easier. It shortens the vid. It's easier for you to watch. It's quicker for you to watch. And I think that's probably the best idea going forward. But like I say, vids are still going to be quite long. I'll tell you another thing though, moving on kind of to the first or second topic, if you like. And I'm going to briefly talk about Twitter and Twitter vids. Because around about 3 weeks back, I uploaded a couple of vids to Twitter. Now, if you follow me, obviously you probably saw them. And the main problem with Twitter, or Twitter vids, is that you're allowed to upload a video for 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So it's not a long time. Obviously for me, who likes doing these long vlogs, it's a nightmare. You've got to cram everything into 2 minutes and 20 seconds. But I kind of enjoyed it. So the first one I did, and feel free to check it out if you, like I say, if you follow me on Twitter, I did like a thank you vid to Addy Sneaker Freak Steve, who sent me a surprise package in the mail. And it was just essentially like a thank you, because I'd helped him out on a few things in the past, with shipping and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't know he was going to send it. He didn't tell me about it. And the postman knocked on the door, and I was like, oh, I'm not expecting anything. I haven't been on eBay. What the hell is this? And he sent me a retro gamer mag and some chocolate, like British chocolate, which obviously I wolfed down pretty quickly. So the diet's obviously going rubbish. But that was really nice of Steve to do, and I put that video, like I say, of that on Twitter, and quite a few people sort of watched that, which was good. And then a few days later, I did a mini pickup video on Twitter, 2 minutes 20 seconds. Now the thing is, I do like it. It's a really novel and interesting way of doing things. But I think you do miss, or I do miss, you know, that thing of just pressing the button and record button and just talking for as long as you want without any real restrictions or restraints, and you can just stop it when you want and then move on. With Twitter, I was talking and talking and talking, and it was like I couldn't pause for breath because I had to cram it into 2 minutes 20 seconds. So I do like them. They're really bite-sized vids, but long term, probably maybe YouTube is the better option. And I think it was that thing because I'd been away from YouTube for a couple of months, and I was looking for an alternative, and Twitter vids just seemed like a really good thing to do. So I do like them. I will continue to do them from time to time. But yeah, I think really if you want to get a point over, you've got to use YouTube. You really do. I'll share a couple of stories. I think both of these I probably did say on Twitter, again, a few weeks back. But this happened ages ago, and there's two similar stories, so that's why I'm going to share them. So the first one was at the mall, and I was in the mall with my wife. We were just walking through, doing a bit of shopping, as you do, obviously. And all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I clocked someone who I used to work with nearly 10 years ago at the newspaper. And a name, I'm not going to reveal her name, but let's just say it was Jen, because it was, or is. So, and I didn't have any problems with her. She's a nice girl, about 10 years or so older than me, yeah, give or take, just to paint the picture. Nice, friendly, no problems. We got on when she worked at the paper with me, but she was only there a few months. You know, she started after me and left well before me. It's a bit weird. But anyway, so what happened is, on the day of her leaving the paper, nearly 10 years ago, she came to me and she went, oh, look, I've not told anyone. I don't know why she told me. Maybe she just wanted to, I don't know, confide in someone. But she went, I'm going to hand him a notice. And I'm like, oh, wow, you know, I was taken by surprise. And I was like, well, you know, we'll have to stay in touch. Now, it's not that I didn't mean it. I kind of did, but it was a bit of a throwaway gesture. You've probably done the same to people, like, oh, here's my email address, or here's my Twitter, whatever. So I said, I'll add you on Facebook, or she'll add me, whatever. So anyway, so she left later that day, and then later that night, either she added me to Facebook, or I added her. Now, as the years went by, we never sent private messages or anything like that. But once or twice, you know, I'd post something and she'd like it, or leave a comment, or vice versa with me on her stuff. But it was once in a blue moon, you know, because I didn't really know her. I'd worked with her, but just for a few months at best. So bear that in mind. So we'd added each other to Facebook and all the rest of it. Now, I'd completely forgotten about her, totally forgotten about her. And then one day, someone else on Facebook, this is just a few months back, posted something, who I worked with at the newspaper, posted something on Facebook, and I just so happened to see it because it was the latest one when I logged in. And I noticed that the last comment, or the most recent one, whatever, the one that I could see on my screen, was by this Jen. And it made me think, do you know what? I've not seen her for bloody ages. I've not seen her comment. I've not seen her like anything. I wonder where she's gone. And then straight away I thought, do you know what? I wonder if she's deleted me. And sure enough, I kind of clicked on her profile page, and that tick where the friends is wasn't there. Which is fine, obviously. I was a little bit annoyed in the sense that she did it to me, and I didn't get the chance to do it to her, which is ridiculous. But fine, fair enough. We didn't really know each other. Obviously, she was going through her Facebook and just weeding out people who she hadn't spoken to for months or years, which is probably the case in my situation. And that's fine. I do understand it. It is a bit annoying, isn't it, when someone does it to you? I'm sure you know what I mean. You feel a little bit angry about it, even though you don't really care because you didn't really know her. But it's just the fact that they did it. It's all right for you to do it to them. If they do it to you, oh, that's not on. That's well out of order. So I noticed that, and I did think, a little bit cheeky, but fair enough, whatever. We've not spoken. And then just a few days or weeks later, the incident at the mall happened. And like I say, we're walking through the mall, and out the corner of my eye, I saw her walking, and she clocked me. She saw me. And as soon as she started to look, I looked away, and I made up this ridiculous conversation with my wife. I went something like, oh, look at that sign over there. And my wife was like, what sign? And I don't know what I was talking about. I was making stuff up as I was going along. But she noticed me. It was too late. I couldn't escape her. She was like literally 2 feet away. And she was like, oh, Alex, how you doing? So I had to kind of turn around, pretend I didn't know she was there. And I was like, oh, hi, how you doing? It was so fake. It was ridiculous. And she went, oh, what are you doing these days? And my answer was, it's just so ridiculous, like as if I just didn't want to talk. Instead of just saying, oh, my job, I just went, oh, you know, a bit of this, a bit of that, the usual. It was such like a really almost confrontational answer. And she looked like nonplussed, and she went, oh, right. And I went, what are you doing? And she went, oh, I'm working at the mall. And I remember she going, hence the radio, because she had a radio on her. And I went, oh, great. I said, well, have a nice day. See you later. And she looked like quite angry, just the face, like shocked, because I just dismissed her. This whole conversation just happened in the space of a few seconds. So it was basically, hello, goodbye, I don't want to know. Now, I wasn't meaning to be rude, not really, but I think psychologically, subconsciously, I was still a bit frustrated that she deleted me off Facebook, even though I actually don't care. It's just bizarre, isn't it, how the whole psychology works. So she walks off and does a thing, and my wife's like, who's that? And I'm like, well, I used to work with her, blah, 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 but she deleted me off Facebook and all the rest of it. So maybe I was being a bit bitter there. Now, if you think that was a bit bitter, maybe this one's even worse, because this was more recently. That was a few months back. And so this one, I was outside the bank. Yeah, like I say, a few weeks back, outside the bank. I was just about to go in. I was getting some stuff ready. So I was sitting down on this bench, essentially, looking in my wallet, getting some things like a check or whatever it was. And as I'm sitting down, someone walks past me, and it's a guy from my previous job. And he's a nice guy. Again, I don't want to reveal his name, but let's just call him Joe, because that was his name. Or again, that is his name. It sounds like they're dead. They're still alive. So he was a nice enough guy, no problems whatsoever. But it's like we never really talked too much. So I didn't really know him, give or take the occasional conversation. So he walks past me, and I didn't realise because I'm looking in my wallet, and he stops, or starts to slow down, I should say. And he's like, Alex. And I kind of look up, and I'm like, oh, how are you doing? Didn't even say his name, not deliberately. I just said, how are you doing? And he went, I'm good. How are you? And I said, I'm good. And he went, good. And I went, good. And that it was so awkward. And then he just sort of walks off, and it was, I just cringed. Cringe-worthy kind of conversation. So the word good was mentioned like 4 times out of like 6 words that were used. It was so bad, honestly. And the funny thing about that is later that night I went onto Facebook and I tweeted the story. I'll put maybe a tweet or a photograph of the picture that I put up, or the post that I put up on Facebook. I think that goes in a little bit slightly more detail as to what I actually said. And someone commented on it who I used to work with, and she had told me, she told me later on that night, that person, Joe, had went back to work afterwards, and he'd said that he saw me, but he thought that I didn't recognise him. Hence why the conversation was really quick. But I did recognise him. That wasn't the issue. I just didn't want to talk. I wasn't in the mood, really. So I just kept it really short and used the word good like 3 times out of 4. Or whatever it was. It was just really kind of... it was a bit not on. And then I felt guilty afterwards. Because I thought, is he walking off thinking I was deliberately being rude? That wasn't the case. I wasn't deliberately being rude. Last thing I want to talk about is a Safeway home delivery. Oh, God. So, Safeway home delivery. I am so lazy. Safeway, right, is about 5 minutes from me. But about 3 weeks back, I noticed that they were doing home deliveries, which is something they should have started doing years ago, quite frankly. And I was feeling a bit lazy. Thought, why not? I'll just test it out. Let's see what the service is like. How quickly do they get here? Do they actually pack everything that I bought, or do they substitute things, which I didn't ask for? You know, what's the service like, basically? So I tried it out, but I felt really embarrassed. It's another thing I tweeted about. Because it's 5 minutes from my house. So the guy turns up at the door like an hour or 2 later, whenever it was, and he's only a young lad, probably late teens, early 20s, and it's probably like sort of a summer a summer job. I can't even bloody speak. So bloody rough that having not made a video for a long time. But yeah, like a summer job. And so I could see him turning up. It wasn't even in a Safeway delivery van. It was just in a normal car. Like a standard little tiny car. And so I'm feeling embarrassed, thinking, oh God, I'm so lazy. Is he going to think that guy there, i.e. me, he's so lazy, he can't even drive or walking, it's only 5-10 minutes or whatever, he can't even be bothered to walk all the way up there. So I'm thinking that he's thinking that of me already. He probably isn't, he's just doing his job. So he walks up to the door and I see him like coming up the drive, So I open the door and I'm like, oh, how are you doing? He's like, oh yeah, great. And he's like, where do you want me to put these? And I said, just by the door. He's not coming in. I don't think so somehow. You know when you go on these like shopping delivery websites, it's always got like a picture, like a stock picture of the delivery person, the driver, in the house putting things. It's like, oh, no, that's not happening, mate. You can stay there. The only way you're coming in is just your arm. I'll let your arm come in and put it by the door. You're not standing in my house. It's just not happening. Miserable. Victim Eldrick, the older I get, honestly. I mean, I wasn't rude about it. He asked, where should I put them? I went, oh, just here, it's fine, just by the door. So he puts a couple down, and he's just about to turn around and walk off, and I'm like, is there a lot of bags? And he went, oh, there's quite a few. And I'm like, oh, bloody hell, great. So I said, well, I'll give you a hand. And he went, oh, great, thanks, So I went out there. Now, I didn't have to say anything. I could have just said nothing, quite frankly. But because I didn't want him to think I was lazy, I lied and said, yeah, as we were walking like down the drive to his car, I went, yeah, I said I would have drove up. I said, but the car's out of service. And he went, oh, no, it's fine. He says, technology's great. You can just order it. So much easier. And he's right. Why did I feel the need to lie and pretend that the car's not working? But why didn't I just say, do you know what, mate? I couldn't be bothered. I feel a bit lazy. I didn't want to go out. Home delivery. I just felt like trying it out. Maybe it's a very British thing to do, because I guarantee if that was your typical average American, they'd have just said, yeah, I just thought I'd try it out. Home delivery, why not? See what it's like. And then he would have went the drive. Yeah, well, why not? But I felt the need to dress up my laziness by saying the car isn't working, and that's why I couldn't be bothered to go up the street. And even if the car isn't working, that's still not really a legitimate excuse, because I could just walk up the street. Lazy. So now he thinks I'm even lazier than I probably am, which is very lazy. So, but the embarrassment doesn't really end there, because about 2 hours ago, through sheer laziness, I did another Safeway delivery online, and he's due to arrive in about an hour or two. I'm just really hoping it's not the same person. Just again, for embarrassment, I'm hoping it's another driver, and I'm hoping that no neighbours see it, so it's like a quick in and out, a quick job. He arrives or she arrives, deliver the stuff, leave it at the door, and then go away. And I've had this for absolutely bloody ages, but I did start it actually probably around about maybe a year and a half ago, and then I never went back to it, and I did go back to it quite recently-ish, about a month and a bit back, and I finished it, and it's really good. You've probably played it, or you'll certainly know about it, and it's The Last of Us on the PlayStation 3. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail for two reasons. One, because, like I say, you probably know about it, and two, because it was a month and a half, touching 2 months ago, I've kind of forgotten a lot about it, to be perfectly honest. But I really did like it. It's a classic game. Now, I think one of the reasons why I wasn't going to play this on the PlayStation 3 is because, of course, the PlayStation 4 version is out. It looks enhanced in terms of graphics, and there's more content to it. Like, for example, when you finish the game, there's bonus content, like kind of like an epilogue or whatever it is, involving one or some of the characters. I've not done it, so I can't comment on it. So I can't reveal any spoilers either. But I know on the PlayStation 4 version, that comes with it. So this doesn't. You've got to pay for it. Because when I finished the game, it says, do you want to do this extra content? And I was like, well, yeah. And it said, oh, well, you're going to have to pay for it, $5 or $10. And I thought, I don't think so, somehow. That's not happening. I'll just get the PlayStation 4 version in the future. But I've got to say, yeah, the PlayStation 4 version, I've looked on YouTube, it looks really, really nice. Of course it looks better, but this still looks stunning. It looks really, really good. The environment, don't ask me why I'm doing this. Classic of old, just unboxing and showing you instructions and all the rest of it. And stickers, nice shiny stickers. So, yeah, a classic game. Quite emotional in parts, quite heavy. Very heavy, actually, at the beginning of the game. A lot of people have said that the ending was quite emotional. I didn't really think it was, to be honest. I thought it was kind of a good ending, in a way. Again, I'm not going to reveal any spoilers. But yeah, the most emotional part of it, this isn't a spoiler. You see, like, some wildlife, let's just leave it at that, towards the end, not right at the end. And that, bizarrely, was probably the most emotional part of the whole game. Weirdly, I guess. You're going to have to play it if you haven't already. It's really, really good. And I can totally understand why people rave about it, of course. It's clearly a 9 out of 10, maybe even a 10 out of 10. I know a lot of people struggle to give games 10, but I can see why some would do it. Certainly a 9. It's really, really good. If you've not played it, you've got to, but you possibly have. But I would say probably play it on the PlayStation 4, just for that extra content, and it looks that little bit better. So the other game I've been playing recently on the PlayStation 3 again is this. It's Body Count from 2011. Now, I remember when this came out because I downloaded the demo. I can't remember if it was on the Xbox or the PlayStation, but I downloaded it, I played it. I thought it was alright, but there was something missing. It wasn't quite good enough, yet there was something for me in the game, in the demo, which made me say, do you know what, when it comes out, when the full price game comes out, I'm gonna get it. I do remember thinking the controls were a little bit off, the graphics weren't great, but like I say, there was just something about it, and I thought, yeah, I'm gonna get that game. Now here we are in 2018, and I've just bought it like a few weeks back, for under $5. Absolute bargain, including shipping as well. I think the one thing about it is that the controls, as I thought at the time when I played it, the demo, aren't very good. Now there is, in the options menu, a sensitivity option where you can lower or raise it accordingly to fit your style. Now I didn't do that. Maybe I should have, and it possibly could have helped the experience. Instead I just got used to the default controls. So yeah, it's a typical first-person shooter, but what surprised me with the game is that very early into it, it went a little bit sci-fi on me, or a little bit futuristic with high-tech and robots and all that kind of stuff. And I just wasn't expecting that, because I'd never seen a gameplay for it before. Well, not a review, not a proper review. I'd never really seen screenshots. All I was basing my experience and knowledge of this game was on the demo from, like I say, 2011, which was based, I think, in Africa, that particular level of the demo. And they seemed to be like humans that I was shooting at the time, so I didn't think much of it. But yeah, these robots start pitching up, and it really took me by surprise. Now, the only real problem I had with it, apart from the controls, was the last maybe level, which I think is pretty much split into like sort of 3 or 4 parts. And it's not right at the end of the game, but towards the end of the game. Like I say, this isn't a spoiler, because I'm not going to tell you the plot or kind of what to do. But there's just a segment of it where basically you walk into this room and there's 4 snipers with like the infrared. So if you move, they can see you, and they're deadly. And it doesn't matter even if you've got it on the easiest level. If they see you, you're in trouble. So you've kind of got to avoid them and use a bit of stealth and all the rest of it, which is fine. And the level looks really nice. The graphics are pretty good, even though it's very much a PlayStation 3 game. But like the room is very kind of blackened with like metallic walls and panels on the floor, like glass and reflecting and all that kind of stuff. It looks nice. So basically what you've got to do is you've got to go in there, you've got to kill the 4 snipers, which can be tricky, like I say, but once you've done that, what I didn't know is that if you go out into the open, which you then kind of do into the big open room, it triggers the AI into coming into the room, like several different waves of it, and you're buggered because there's a lot of them, and they can be really overpowering. And after 3 or 4 attempts of doing it, or trying to do it, I was like, I don't know what to do, this is ridiculous. So I've got to be honest, I went onto YouTube, cheated a little bit, looked at some gameplay, and what someone did, basically, and this is the thing to do, is once you've killed the snipers, don't go out into the open, walk around the edges, lay mines at the doors, so that when you do go out into the open to trigger the AI, all the mines explode and it kills several, not all, but several of the soldiers, which really helps, it really does. So once I did that, it was so much easier. You've then got to basically open a door, which takes like 10 seconds to do. It's like sort of like the blue bars going across the screen as all the bullets are flying everywhere. So that was a little bit kind of nervy. And then that leads you into the second section and so on and so forth to the end of the game. But what annoyed me about that segment, like I say, it didn't really tell me what to do. It didn't give me any clues whatsoever, which I found unhelpful. That I had to open a door or do this, do that. I had to watch that guide. And then the penultimate, or maybe it was right at the end of the game, where it must have been actually, with the final boss, again, without revealing the plot or anything like that, it didn't really tell me what to do to kill this boss. It wasn't helpful, it didn't tell me. So I was running around for like 10 minutes, it took me 3 or 4 goes, on 10 minutes each time, thinking, what am I meant to do? And then I just found out through trying something out, and then when it worked, I was like, oh, I didn't even know I was meant to do that. And then once I did that, I ended up defeating the boss. So yeah, so it was a little bit awkward, not really telling me about the game and how to do it, especially the latter stages. But overall, there's just something about this game. It is bang average, it really is. But there's just something about it which makes me recommend it for what will be about £4 or £5 or $5. It's not a lot of money, so maybe check it out. Just don't go into the game with high expectations, because you will be disappointed. But if you go in there thinking this is going to be very, very average, I think you might be pleasantly surprised. And then last but not least, as to what I've been playing, it's Pegasus on the Commodore Amiga. It is a good game, I do enjoy it, but its main problem is that it's massively repetitive. So basically you start off in the sky on your Pegasus, the level lasts for around about 2 minutes, and it's essentially a shoot 'em up. And then once you've got to the end of the level, you're on the ground and it turns into like a platformer hack and slash, again for about 2 minutes. You get to the end of the level, you jump on your horse, on your Pegasus, and you're back in the sky, and rinse and repeat. And it's basically the same thing, just constantly. Now, I've not finished the game. I have heard that the levels mix up a little bit more. Whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. But yeah, it looks quite nice. Soundtrack is good enough. But yeah, just too repetitive, it really is. Now, I've got the Amiga version, as I say. You can probably see it down there. CBM Amiga. I was going to get it on the Atari ST. I kind of prefer the ST through nostalgia. But for me, the gulf, the difference between the ST version and the Amiga one was just too big. Gameplay-wise, it's exactly the same. But there's too much detail in the Amiga version, not there on the ST. And I just thought, no, I can't do that. I've got to get the Amiga version. So the first question's from Andy, MCFC Shirts. Thank you, Andy. You asked these about 3 months back, mate, on Twitter. Totally forgot about it. So I'm going to answer them now, all these months later. Which is your favourite Manchester City football shirt of all time? Now, Andy's got an amazing collection of football shirts. You should follow him on Twitter, honestly. The shirt he's got, it's incredible. Match-worn shirts from players in cup finals and everything. It's ridiculous. I'm, yeah, jealous. A lot jealous. Now, I've just picked out a few here. Quickly going to go through them. So the first one, a lot of City fans do not like this, at least the ones who I've spoken to. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's the away shirt from, it's not my favourite, but it's one of them. The away shirt from the, what would it be, 89-90 and 1990-91 season. And I absolutely love it. Look at the colours there with the little tags. Always been a fan of it. Here as well with the blue and the white. I just think it looks great. With the maroon. Really like it. I can understand why people don't, but I like it. Next one up is, by the way, I've got the home shirt to that season as well, but it's mysteriously vanished. My wife doesn't know where it's gone because I'm blaming her. I think she's used it as a rag. I'm sure that, not a United fan, that's what United fans are called, rags, but like as a duster. I'm sure she has, like maybe she just thought, oh, I'll just use this, and then she realised it was like a City shirt, and then she thought, oh, well, I can't say anything because I've knackered it, and I reckon she's chucked it out, but who knows what she's done. But, well, I'm joking about it, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's happened because I can't find it anywhere. It's just literally vanished. But we'll see. And I wouldn't mind, but I paid about 80 quid for that bloody thing. But anyway, the next one up, which I really, really like, is the season after the home shirt, which is 91, 92, 92, 93. So City's first Premier League shirt. That's a really good one with those kind of very, again, early 90s little flashes there on the side. It doesn't really differ too much to the home shirt from the previous season, which, like I say, I can't show you because my wife scoffed it out. Well, she probably hasn't, but I think she has. If she hasn't, someone's nicked it. Or maybe I've just misplaced it. It's probably what's happened. Another one I really, really like is this one. The 97-98 and 98-99 Kappa shirt. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. The long sleeve shirt is amazing. When I first saw this, I absolutely loved it. I really do. Even though, quite frankly, this represents really dark times for the club. Really dark. Because it was a 97-98 shirt, like I say, which resulted in relegation to the third division. Unbelievable. So, that's that. But to be fair, it was worn as well in the 98-99 season, which culminated in promotion, ultimately. And then I'm going to have to say this one. Oh, by the way, before I do this, let me put up a little picture. So I'll put up a picture, tell a little bit of the story here. I may have said it before, I'm not sure. But the picture you're seeing on screen right now is of me in the home shirt, City shirt, of 85, 86, 87, I think. Or was it 45, 85, 86? Either way. It was definitely during the 85-86 season anyway, because that's, I think, when that picture was taken. Or maybe the year after. And I remember buying that shirt like it was yesterday, going into the sports shop. I went in there with my dad, and the guy comes over to us, and he's like, how can I help? And I told my dad that I wanted the City shirt, but I didn't want that one. That's not the one I wanted, the blue one. I wanted this one, which is the away one. Again, you might be looking at it thinking, bloody hell, it looks manky. Right, state red like Dennis the Menace, isn't it? So there's nothing really to see on the back there. But I wanted this. In 1986, I wanted this shirt. And the guy, and it was out on display, you know, on the shelf and what have you. And the guy goes, all right, I'll just have a look in the back to see if it's available. He goes out the back, it comes out a few minutes later, he's like, oh, we don't have them, I'm afraid, in your size. Like a kid size at the time. He says, is there another one you want? And of course, so I pointed to the home shirt. And naturally, clearly, they did have that in, hence the picture. And I know the bloody shorts are too high. Don't blame me, it was my mum's fault. I remember going, oh, pull your shorts up a little bit. It looks ridiculous. I knew it at the time. I didn't go out like that. It was just that was in the back garden. So don't have a go at me. But yeah, but this is the actual shirt that I wanted. So that picture, again, that you see, and that really, I should be wearing this. But I didn't end up getting it until quite recently. And this is a size 42 inch, which is like an adult large. But I tell you what, bearing in mind this is like a 1980s shirt, it's so tight. Absolutely insane. So there's just a few, Andy. There's others I like as well, but those are just 4 or 5, I guess, including the picture. Question number 2. What are your thoughts on the Super Star Wars game for the SNES? And how far can you get before you launch the control pad on the wall? Have I got it somewhere? Oh, you're right. Let's lean across. So, handy prop, actually. I was playing this the other day. So, Super Star Wars. This is from Owen Labosu77. Mate, thank you for this. I mean, I did say thank you at the time, about 7 years ago when you sent this. Still got it. Still in great condition. And, yeah, now, Andy, we were talking about this, again, about 2 or 3 months back, hence, I guess, why you've asked the question. I know you said you completed the game, but I find it very, very difficult. I mean, even recently when I was putting it on, again, I'll just hold it up for a prop. Yeah, the first level's pretty straightforward. The second level as well. So the first level is like the one on Tatooine, isn't it? In fact, you can see it on there with Luke with that kind of Sarlacc pit monster. The second level is that one there, which is like the land speeder. And in the distance, you can see the sandcrawler. And the third level, which is the sandcrawler, which you can't see on here, is so tough. Honestly, it took me bloody years to get past that. And I'm not even joking. I might have talked about it in a vlog, actually. It was only just recently, the last few months, that I finally did it for the first time in my life. And now I can pretty much nail it. I still can't nail it every time because you fall off the edges too quickly. You know, all it takes is one mistimed jump and then you fall down the bottom and it's just, oh Christ, it's really infuriating. But after a few goes, I can do it and I can get to the 4th level, which is inside the sandcrawler. And that's my latest pet hate. That is really annoying me, that one. So I'm struggling with that a lot. But step by step, bit by bit, I will get there. This game came out in 1992 and I've only just got to the 4th level. But so, yes, it is very, very stressful. I can't believe you completed it. Fair play to you. Well done. And then last but not least, did you collect the WWF Hasbro figures back in the day? Which did you have and which were your favourites? Yeah, I think I did have a few. From memory, they would have been the obvious ones like Bret the Hitman Hart, The Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan. But what I didn't have, but I always wanted, so around about, 1990, I guess, was the ring. You know, that you'd put them in. And I always wanted to get that, but I never ended up getting it. It just looked really cool. Like you could put them on the ropes and then, throw them down and have your fights. But really, the thing is, by 1991, let's go the following year, I was, 12 or turned 13 during 1991. So I was starting to get to that point where I was sort of moving away from it. So I think that's toys in general. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't get it in the end. It's because I kind of wanted it, but I knew that I was like, oh, am I getting a bit too old for this? Maybe there was an element of that. And I think I've got about 3 or 4 years on you, Andy. So, which, when you're an adult, 3 or 4 years, well, it's obviously nothing. But when you're a kid, if I was like, 12 and you were like 8, you know what I mean? That kind of makes all the difference for toys. But yeah, I did still have a few. But that was around the time, just at the turn of the 90s, when I was just starting to sort of move out of them. 1991, I still had things like Action Force and G.I. Joe and Cobra the Enemy or something. I remember that line. Like these blue kind of stormtroopers, or equivalent to stormtroopers. But yeah, it was around about that time where I started to sort of move away from them. But I still had them, and I did want that ring. And obviously all these years later, when we get very nostalgic, I don't really mind so much buying toys and stuff back. I don't really do it, but I wouldn't be adverse to doing it maybe in the future. And maybe you've got me thinking now, yeah, it could be on a future pickup vid. So thank you, Andy, for those. James Keir, 83. Question number 1. To what extent has living abroad expanded your horizons? And are there other places on the globe you're keen to travel to? Yeah, I think the thing is, when I came to America, I was 30. I think I'd not long turned 30. So basically, all of my 30s have been in America. So it's expanded my horizons in the sense that I've had to grow up, really, because I was quite, not immature to the point of being stupidly immature. I've always been, like, in public and when I have to be, when I've got to knuckle down, very sensible. Like most people, I've kind of got that sort of childish side, but it forced me to grow up that little bit more. You know, it really did, like moving away from your family and moving away from your friends and all that kind of stuff. So it forced me to grow up, but I still clown around. Of course I do. Just as a time and a place, really. I'm still an idiot on YouTube vids, telling stupid stories about Twitter and avoiding people at the mall. That's never changed. That'll never change because that is me. But, you know, in social situations, in work situations, with people where you've kind of got to knuckle down, I'm a lot more mature than I used to. And also not so much mature, well, that too, but a lot more confident. I think confidence comes as you get older. And as I say, with that maturity of coming to a country without my family, well, my wife aside, of course, it forced me to be mature, it's forced me to grow up that little bit more and to interact with people. And it's been a good thing, don't get me wrong. So that's that. And in terms of other places on the globe I'm keen to travel to, I wouldn't mind going to Australia. That would be a good one. Japan, that would be quite nice. Maybe even certain parts of Asia. I know I just said Japan there, but like India. How about India? That would be quite nice. And but it's finding the time. I mean, I've been here 10 years and I've not even been back to the UK. Not even once on a holiday. So maybe I should be doing that first. We'll see. So thank you, James, for that. Question number 2, how often do you go out for a drink with pals, or do you prefer to go out for a quiet one with the family? I go out every now and again, but yeah, I probably do prefer a quiet night, to be honest. And it might be that thing of, again, you know, because when you're an adult, you get to a certain age, you do less and less of the clubbing and all that kind of stuff. And don't get me wrong, I like to go out for a drink every now and again. I like to do a bit of socialising, but more often than not, I come home, shut the door, that's it. If you knock at the door when I'm in, see you later, it's not happening. So, but I'm also one of those people where I'll whinge about it again, Victor Meldrew, whinging about all sorts. But after I've actually gone out, despite saying, oh, I don't want to do it, after I've done it, and when I get back, I'm like, oh, I'm really glad I went. I'm one of those kind of people. You know, so if I'm ever in the UK and we're all hanging out or whatever, and you're like, do you want to go out? And if I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to, what that probably means is I do, but I can't be bothered. So just drag me along, not literally, with you, and I'll end up enjoying it, I can guarantee. And then at the end of the night, you'll be like, see, I told you you like it. And I'll be like, oh, yeah, you were right. So I'm one of those where really I've kind of got to be encouraged to do it. Because if it's up to me, I won't do it. But when I do it, I really like it. And then question number 3 from James, what do you do for work out there in the States? I work in the financial field, essentially. And the financial thing is just something I kind of fell into. You know, I didn't mean to. In the UK, I worked at Barclays for like 6 or 7 years before coming to America. That was my last job in the UK, working for a big head office for Barclays. And but yeah, when I got here, I worked at the hospital. No, I worked at the newspaper, and then I worked at the hospital for a bit. And then since then, yeah, kind of crept back into the financial world. But it's just by accident, it really is. Thank you, James, for those questions. We've got some questions, quite a few here actually, from Sniper. I think it's a new user name, which I've not really seen around in the past. So thank you for the questions. When was your first City game? And what player would you like to see City sign this summer? Well, again, it's been 2 months since I've made a vid, so yeah, sorry about that, mate. The transfer window's shut, isn't it? So nothing I can do about that one. First game would have been United, and it was 3-0 to United. Oh, bloody hell. Arthur Albiston scored, a screamer, to be fair. And it was either Mike Duxbury who scored, or I was going to say Billy Garton. No, Billy Garton. Not Colin Gibson. What's his name? John Gidman. I think it was John Gidman who scored. So, who ended up playing for City? Or did he play for City first? I think he did. City first and then United. No, United first. Oh, I can't remember. Whichever way it went, anyway. But I remember Arthur Albiston scoring a screamer, who was a left back. John Gidman, I think, scored in that game, and he was a right back. And I'm pretty certain Brian Robson scored. It might have been a penalty. I stand corrected, but it was 3-0 United anyway, so that was a bit of a baptism of fire. But as I said before, I'm making myself look stupid once again. Why do I do it? But when I was a kid, you know, up until 37, no, I'm joking, obviously. When I was a kid, I followed United as well to a very large degree. So it didn't bother me whatsoever. I'm not going to pretend I went home and I cried about it or anything. It didn't bother me. I was probably quite happy, to be honest. Shouldn't have said that. And the MCFC shirt has immediately unfollowed and unsubscribed for that blasphemy. But not as an adult. It's different. I grew up. I grew to learn. So, yeah, 85, 86 was around about that time. Ron Atkinson era for United. But anyway, question number 2. How do you feel about trophies and achievements? How many platinums do you have yourself? Oh, God. Embarrassingly, I think I've got like 3. Might even be 2. One of them was really, really easy. And what's the main one I've got? Not even sure. In terms of on the Xbox, I remember completing on the 360 Call of Duty Modern Warfare, 100%, like on Veteran and all that kind of stuff. But I tend to play Call of Duty on Veteran anyway, for the challenge. I just find it quite easy, really. For the most part. Obviously, there's some levels which are very, very difficult. But, you know, perseverance, practice makes perfect and all the rest of it. So not many platinums at all. How do I feel about them? I do think they're a good thing. It does encourage you to play the game more. But the one problem I've got with it, apart from the whole bragging rights, which you could say is a good thing as well, to show off, but maybe not when you get to my age, you know what I mean? But that said, I do like the noise it makes of the trophy when you get one. That's pretty good. And there is part of me which I do kind of look at other people's trophies, and if they've not got something I've got, I'm kind of thinking, pretty pleased with that. It's quite good. Which, again, at my age, is completely ridiculous. But the one thing that kind of annoys me about it, really, is that many trophies and achievements, they revolve around grinding, doing things repetitively, you know, looking for things and around a map, like going on the hunt for, like, intel and treasures and maps and all that kind of stuff. And you can't really find all that by chance. Well, I mean, you can, but you're going to really need a guide on YouTube. And if you're going onto YouTube for a guide just to get a trophy or an achievement, and I've been there years ago, don't get me wrong, that's a little bit ridiculous, really, isn't it? But the premise behind it, I think it's a good thing. You know, it encourages you to play the game more, to get your money's worth, apart from maybe the grinding, which is a bit of a drag, where you've got to do things relentlessly. You know, like kill 10,000 enemies, you know, play online every day for 2 years. It's like, oh, really? That's a bit excessive. But ultimately, I do think they're a good thing. But I don't go out of my way often to get them. Question number 3. I'm from Birmingham myself, says Sniper. Which parts did you visit? Yeah, this reverts to my previous vlog where I talked about visiting Birmingham and thinking it was quite a dirty kind of city, really. It's a big city. It's got a lot of good things going for it, don't get me wrong. But my initial reaction when I kind of got off the train, it was just that this is just filthy. There was dirt everywhere. It was grimy. A lot of grey, a lot of brown, it just was just like, seriously. Rubbish on the floor. I just didn't like it. But you've got to remember, this is nearly 20 years ago. Not far off 20 years ago. So I'm sure it's changed. So what part did I visit? Well, it would have been the city centre and surrounding areas. I just didn't think it was great. But like I say, it was a long time ago. And first impressions, though, were like, this is kind of weird. Also, it's a very controversial thing to say about Birmingham. You know, you're probably going to guess what I'm going to say. I should prefix this by saying, I've obviously not got a problem. I don't care where people come from or what they look like. Not bothered whatsoever. But it was an observation nonetheless. And when I got off the train, I guess what would have been the main train station in Birmingham, I've got to be honest, it must have took me several minutes of walking before I saw another white person. Like I say, it's not a problem, but I saw it and it's an observation. And it did make me feel a little bit insecure, slightly, thinking like, because I was a minority. But in a way, that's kind of a good thing because it gave me an insight into what it's like for, what it must be like for minorities. You know, when they're like in a minority of maybe one. And it can make you feel a little bit like kind of on edge, slightly. I mean, at no stage did I think someone was going to come up and cause aggro or anything like that. I didn't think that was going to happen. But it was just slightly, I wasn't used to it. And when you're in an environment that you're not used to, it was like, bloody hell, this takes a bit of getting used to, obviously. So, but yeah, it obviously wasn't a problem. But it was an observation, as I keep saying. But that wasn't why I had a kind of a problem with the city. It was just the fact that it was just dirty. And when I went into the city centre itself, yeah, I didn't think it was great. But it was a long time ago. I'm sure it's changed. In fact, I did go probably more recently, but even then, it still would have been like about 11 or 12 years ago. And it was slightly cleaner, but not much. But maybe I need to go back again. Maybe next time. Question number 4. Any interest in tattoos? If so, what would you get? No, I haven't got any. I did have a slight interest in getting one back in, probably would have been the late 90s, but thank Christ I didn't, because if you remember back then, on the arms, like the sleeves or the elbow, whatever it was, the elbow, brilliant, whose elbow's up there? It was the kind of the barbed wire, the kind of Pamela Anderson thing. And for a brief moment in time, I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool, everyone's getting that. Thank God I didn't do that. What a state that would have been. But I did think about it. And then a little bit after that, I went through another phase of really liking my Guns N' Roses. My earlier phase was like in my early teens, but this one was in my late teens, my early 20s, so right at the late 90s essentially, I guess. And I did think about maybe a tattoo then. What it would have been, God knows, it would have been something stupid again, like skulls, skull and crossbones and Guns N' Roses basically. It would have looked a mess, so I didn't do it. Also, quite frankly, I've not got a particularly high pain threshold, so I'd probably pass out. I would pass out. It would be ridiculous. So I didn't do it, and I'm not going to do it now. But I'm not one to judge people who do it. Some can look really good. It's just that some can look ridiculous too. But no, don't have any. Question number 5. Have you ever seen The Rise of the Foot Soldier or Dead Man's Shoes? Mate, not just have I not seen them, I don't know what they are. Are they movies, TV shows? Not sure, so I'm going to have to Google them. Question number 6. What would you rather see? City win the Champions League or England winning the World Cup? It's quite a tough one, really. It's quite hard. It would be nice to see England win the World Cup. Obviously, we had the World Cup in the summer. Finished in July. Here we are, pushing September. And yes, it would be nice. But City win the Champions League would be great, wouldn't it? You could probably toss a coin, to be honest. If you had to force me to pick one, I would say England winning the World Cup, only because it's less likely. So we'll go with that one. I think this season, City in the Champions League, I'm telling you, it could happen. So thank you very much. Andy Sneaker Freak, thank you, Steve. Favourite kit of this World Cup? Well, of that World Cup, of the previous one. I'd say 2 spring to mind. The Germany shirt, the away one, the green one, kind of a pastel colour, which is very reminiscent of their one from 1990, which brings back bad memories, penalty shootouts, but it was a nice shirt. I'd say that. And the Nigerian shirt. The Nigerian shirt was really good, but a bit wild and in your face. It's really insane design. Definitely one from really the early 90s, but I quite like it. So thank you, Steve, for that. Ash, 81B4U with 2 questions. You can only play one Turrican game ever again. Which game on what system? Very specific. It'll be Turrican on the Amiga. Nostalgia would probably say on the ST, but again, much like Pegasus, the Amiga version is much better, so I'd say that. Playability-wise, again on the ST, it's the same. It's just the graphics. Graphics can really make a game. It's not all about graphics; it's about playability, but they help, don't they? Because it's visual. You see it, the aesthetics. So I'd say Turrican on the Commodore Amiga. And then question number 2: favorite music from an Amstrad CPC game? Well, the one that immediately springs to mind is The Adventures of Robin Hood. Or was it The Super Adventures of Robin Hood? Or The Adventures of Super Robin Hood? Whatever it was from Codemasters. The one with the digitised speech, from what I've subsequently, in more recent years, learned that speech is actually their mum, the Oliver Twins' mother, that they got to record those lines, like Save Me, Robin, and all that kind of stuff. The music in that is really good. And I instantly, when I first heard it back in like the mid-late 80s, as a kid, clearly, I loved it. I thought, this is really good. And I listened to it the other day, and I thought, yeah, it's really good. Also, Batman the movie. I like that. You're probably familiar with that one, Ash. What else? Navy Seals is a really good one, albeit on the GX4000. Really good music on that. I never played it on the standard Amstrad, so I don't know if it's just a straight port, but the GX4000 is brilliant. And maybe something like Who Dares Wins 2, but that's purely nostalgia. The music is very, very basic. I know you've got that game, so you'll know exactly what it's like. It's basic music, so it's not so much good, it's just nostalgic, and it kind of brings a nostalgic smile to the face. So I'd say those. And then you do have question number 3, but then nothing next to it. So maybe I was just meant to invent one. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'll do that next time. Thank you, Ash. So next up is a question from Jimmy M. It seems to be a growing trend to just download games versus getting physical copies, more so than it even was 2 years ago. Do you see video games predominantly still being made physically in even 10 years' time or not? I, Jimmy, still loves to get a physical disc, but most people Jimmy, play with just download them to the console or an external hard drive. Yeah, digital games and physical games, it's the old chestnut, isn't it? I still think they'll be around 10 years, in 10 years' time, as you say, but in much less quantity. I think what we're going to see, because isn't there rumours of the next Xbox having 2 versions? You've got the Xbox, which apparently will be streaming only, so downloading, in other words, or streaming, I should say. Either way, however it's going to work. And then you've got the other one, which is going to be physical, so you can put the discs in there. So I think that will still be the case. Physical games will still be made 10 years from now. But I also think what we will definitely start to see a lot more of from the next generation, maybe even towards the end of this generation, which we're rapidly approaching, is big publishers will more and more start releasing games that are digital only. You can't get a box version for it. You can't get a case to stick on your shelf or to have and to look at, to hold and all that kind of stuff. It will be digital only. So we may start seeing that come through before the PS4 is out and the Xbox One. But that will definitely, I reckon, will definitely be there for the next generation. It makes sense from a publisher's point of view and a developer, all that money that they're saving, you know, producing the game and getting the artwork and all that kind of stuff. So it does make sense from their perspective. But it is a bit of a shame, but it's just a sign of the times, isn't it? It's just the way it is. You've said yourself there, most people you play with just download games these days. And yeah, more and more people I speak to are starting to download. A lot of people who are vehemently against downloading games are now starting to look at it thinking, do you know what, it makes sense. Things like Xbox Game Pass, they're looking at it thinking, I can get like 100 odd games or whatever it is for a really small fee per month. They're there at your fingertips. You don't have to buy them. Yes, you don't get the physical case, but you've got the games, and that's what it's all about, ultimately, playing the game. So yeah, and as someone who's kind of in that halfway house, who, you know, someone like me who I buy physical games still, but I download a lot as well, I've got to be honest, that factor of convenience of just sitting down on your couch with your controller and instantly launching into a game, it's just brilliant. It's really convenient, I've got to be honest. It's something you don't quite appreciate until you've done it. And a lot of you may be thinking, oh, how hard can it be, Alex, to get up off your ass, you know, go to the shelf, get a game, unclick it, and take the disc out, put the disc in, click the case again afterwards, of course, put it back on your shelf or on the couch or wherever. How hard can that be? Well, of course, very hard. No, it isn't. It's easy, of course it is. It's really easy to do, but it takes an extra 10 or 20 seconds. And again, big deal, 10 or 20 seconds. But it's all about saving time. Again, trust me, once you do it yourself, try digital games, and once you do, you'll be like, oh, I'm not sure I can be bothered with this physical stuff anymore. So yeah, in the future, I can definitely see myself possibly going all digital. I think I've touched upon that before. Possibly I could. The only stumbling block is the prices. It really is. You're paying $60 for a game and not being able to sell it and then being stuck with it is a problem. That's happened to me a few times. I bought a few games for $60 where I look at it now and think, Christ, I shouldn't have done that. I played them, I finished them, I somewhat enjoyed them, but it was a lot of money. Invariably, if you wait about a year, and certainly longer, those $60 downloadable games are now like $10 or less. So if you wait, if you're prepared to wait, going digital can actually save you money if you wait for the sales. And so that's my advice. It's a good thing. But not everyone's into digital gaming. I know some people absolutely despise it. For me, I personally don't want to miss out on a potentially amazing experience just because I haven't got a plastic box. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal to me, it really isn't. But of course, you've still got all those companies like Limited Run. You know, they're releasing games in a physical format. So I think a lot of those will still be sprouting up. So if you like physical games, companies like that will probably still help you out. So it's kind of win-win, I guess, really. Although those limited edition games, or limited run, or whatever they're called, Some of them cost a fortune because obviously they're a limited run. Thank you, Jimmy. Dylan Craven, John's son. Thank you, Dylan, for the questions. Question number 1: do you think at some point you might ditch the old consoles and emulate them all instead? Here's the thing. As I always say, I've said it in this vid, because I'm so nostalgic for certain systems from a certain era, I don't think I'll ever ditch the consoles. I think I will like to buy the games because I do get a kick out of them. I don't even have to play the games. I've said this many times. I can just have the box, I can look at it, I can put it on a shelf, forget about it for months, then walk into this room or any room, pick it up, look at it, and it takes me back to, it reminds me of an era, certain people, places, a certain time. It takes me right back, and I don't even have to play the game. I'm very nostalgically driven. But with that said, even though I still think I will buy the games, I can see a time where I will potentially emulate games. For example, there's the SNES Classic Mini or Classic SNES Mini, however it's phrased and whatever it's called. I'm interested in potentially buying that and modding it and having every single SNES game on there. So then all those games are at my disposal, at my fingertips, to play whenever I want. You know, some of the crazy, crazy expensive games, which if I want to buy physically, it could be years away from me buying those. So to have them, albeit a ROM, and again, albeit emulating, I think I'd love to do that. And I think I will. But I also think I would still like the physical entity as well, actually owning the game. So, but yeah, I wouldn't mind emulating them. In terms like the Mega Drive, have they even released a mini Mega Drive or Genesis? I'm not even sure on that. If they have, or if they do, again, same applies. I'd want to emulate it where I can play all my games on it, loads of ROMs, hundreds of ROMs for the Amiga, for the Mega Drive. But I'd still want to play on the actual Mega Drive with actual Mega Drive physical games. Question number 2: is there a system or a game that you don't own that would be your holy grail? Nah, there isn't. The system that I wouldn't mind getting, there's games that I wouldn't mind getting, but there's no holy grails out there. There really isn't. The one which kind of came close to it, which I now have, is my Atari STE, the Discovery Extra Pack, the one that I've got with the big pink outer sleeve, which I had in 1991. So it took me years to track it down. But when I did, obviously I was delighted. So that was probably my holy grail. There might be a couple of other things I really, really want, but there's no real urgency. Now that England are in the quarterfinals, do you think they can go all the way? Well, I'm quite good at guessing things. I reckon they're good enough to maybe get to the semi-finals. And maybe, if they draw Croatia, maybe lose 2-1. I reckon. Stick a tenner on that. We'll see what happens. Now, well, obviously the World Cup finished, so we know how England got on. They got to the semi-finals and lost to Croatia. Such a shame. Croatia are a good team, but England are better than them, in my opinion. They are. They should have been 2 or 3-0 up in that game, but it's football. You know, if you don't take your chances and you get punished at the other end. Going out in the semi-final is just ridiculous. But it went from being really positive to looking at how England finished, and they lost 3 games in that tournament. The group game against Belgium, which, well, all right, it was kind of a thrown game, wasn't it, really? Obviously, Gareth Southgate isn't going to say it was thrown, but he pretty much was. And then there's a semi-final, which, 2 teams have to lose a semi-final, and then losing the 3rd place playoff. So finishing 4th sounds great, but they lost 3 games. It's terrible. So, but I've got to be honest, for a brief moment in time, I really believed. I believed for the first time since Euro 96. And the vibe that I picked up, it transcended all the way to America for me. I wasn't in the UK, but watching footage, watching video clips, hearing people talking about it, saying it's coming home. And I really did think it was. And it's a shame, it's sad, it's just a game, it's just football. But it was, oh God, one of those so close again. But it's a shame because England came so close, a World Cup semi-final. Oh, again losing. At least it wasn't on penalties, at least it wasn't to Germany. So, and if they'd have got to the final, they would have been battered by France, which arguably would have been worse. So, yeah, fair play to England. The thing I love about this team, this squad, and Gareth Southgate, is they do have some really good players. They're not at world elite level. Some are, but as a squad, they're not. But what they do have is they have passion and they care, I think, genuinely. They care. They show they care. I'm not saying the other ones didn't in previous World Cups, players. I'm not saying they didn't care. But this batch show they care more. And I think that means more to you as a fan. If you see that they're trying, then that's good enough. It's when they appear not to give a toss. That's a problem. So, win, lose or draw, I don't think it really matters. If they try, that's the most important thing. And I think they did. So, just wasn't quite good enough. Maybe next time. It's coming home in 4 years. We said it was coming home, we just didn't say when. So, there we go. So thank you, Dylan, for those. SNES-tastic, thank you, Pete. I've been thinking of, as in Pete, I've been thinking about console game exclusives today. Do you think it is time to cease console exclusives? That's a bit of a bold claim. I, Pete, used to think they were essential to create a reason to buy a particular system. Now, I think, Pete thinks, stop doing that people are more likely to buy a console because their friends have that system or because they prefer the ecosystem. Microsoft and Sony could concentrate more on system performance, dashboards and PS and Xbox Gold, Xbox Game Pass, etc. as a way to entice gamers to their consoles. Thoughts? Okay, let's have a swig first. That would be a brave move because I still think console exclusives are a massive selling point for gamers. They really are. If you just look at the Xbox One, how many people whinge about the Xbox with a certain amount of justification of it having no games? No games. Of course it's got games, but people come out and throw that cliche out. Xbox has got no games. Of course it does. The PlayStation 4 has more. It probably, I agree, has better exclusives, but the Xbox does have games, but it does need more. Again, I agree. But that's been a stumbling block for the Xbox. People haven't been buying it because of the perceived lack of games, and it's harmed the Xbox One sales in comparison to the PlayStation 4. So I do still think they're important and very crucial. But ultimately, I think the bigger point you've made is about friends. I think that's a really big thing. Even now at my age, I still buy certain games on whether it's Xbox or PlayStation, depending on which friend is playing that game. So I'm part of that as well. And I'd probably base a console purchase, even at my age, based on that, even though I don't play anywhere near online as much as I used to. So if I'm thinking that way, that must be a huge factor for kids. It must be their friends at school, at college, wherever. That must be a massive selling point. The point you make about apps and all that kind of stuff, and an ecosystem, I'm not sure that's too relevant, because the Xbox and the PlayStation, i.e. Xbox One and PlayStation 4, don't they both have things like Spotify? They've both got Netflix. They've both got all the essentials, which we all use for the most part. So what have they got? Or what could they offer that someone else hasn't got? I can't think of anything. It'll be some little tiny little app that may be useful or may not. But the main things, Netflix, Spotify, they've all got them. So as long as anyone doesn't have a monopoly on those kind of apps, then I don't think a dashboard or apps are going to be a big deal. I really don't. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. But I still think console exclusives sell consoles, essentially, and stir up the hype to sell a console, or have the adverse effect and can basically make people, especially in this day and age on social media, slag a system off to ensure that game, which doesn't have exclusives, to ensure it doesn't really sell very well in comparison to its competitor. So at least that's what I think anyway, but who knows. Question number 2, have you bought a PC Engine yet? No, I haven't. So yeah, that reverts back to Dave, Retro Dave Nintendo. I talked about it again on my previous vid. He showed off a PC Engine, and I wasn't being serious. I was joking, saying, you know how someone shows something on a YouTube vid and it can influence you into buying one, and how I, just out of curiosity, that's all it was, I brought up an adjacent window tab, Google tab, and I went onto eBay and I typed in PC Engine. I was just looking at prices. All it was, Pete, honestly. But no, not going to buy one. Never say never. I'm not looking for one, but I don't want to say I'm never going to buy one, because what if in 50 years' time I think, you know what, I want to get one? But it's not on the agenda. It never has been, really. No, not for me. Are you getting one? Have you got one already? And then did you sell it? I was below the belt, wasn't it? Right now, at the moment you are reading this question, are you a PlayStation or Xbox guy? Which systems are you drawn to the most and why? At this moment in time, Pete, PlayStation 4. And it's been that way since the turn of the year, quite frankly. But, if I'm honest, Xbox One and PlayStation 4, along with 360 and PS3, both of these last two generations, I've bounced back and forth a little bit. You know, I'll spend like several months buying 360 games. You'll have seen it like as an evolution on my channel. I'll spend many months where I'll be showing Xbox 360 games on pickup vids, and then it'll be PS3, or was PS3, and then it was Xbox One, and then PlayStation 4. And yeah, so this month this month, I don't change that frequently on a monthly basis, but this year it's been PlayStation 4, and I'm really enjoying it. It's a great system, but Forza Horizon 4 comes out next month, and I could be back in bed with the Xbox. Who knows? Favourite page 3 girl, or girls of the 80s and the 90s? Well, it's going to have to be either Sam Fox or Linda Lasardi. They were the only two girls in the 80s and probably the early 90s, I think. The only exception from the 90s that I can immediately think of is, I forgot her bloody name. What's her name? Jo Guest. You know, she was very prevalent in all like the lads culture, Britpop and laddism, Loaded magazine and all that kind of stuff. She was very much there in like the mid to late 90s. I'm not sure what she's up to these days. Did you watch Gladiators? If so, who was your favourite gladiator? Mine, Pete, like a lot of young boys, was Jet. It's funny you say that, because I reckon mine was a toss-up between Wolf and Hunter. Joking. Of course it was Jet. Diane Udale, isn't it? Is that her name? That's how much I liked her, is that I know her real name. So yeah, definitely Jet, Pete, as it was pretty much for everybody. Thank you for those questions. And then last but not least, we've got 3 questions from Sean, which is Pompey Games Room. Question number 1, here's a question for you. Would you like to see Oasis Reform, taking into account the releases from Liam Gallagher and the High Flying Birds, which of course was Noel Gallagher? Yeah, we've had the 2 solo albums last year. Or was it this year? It sounds really selfish, but because I've seen them play live, I'm not bothered. And part of me, selfishly, I admit it, part of me thinks I don't want them to get back together so that the new generation of Oasis fans can't see them. It's so selfish, it's so uncalled for, isn't it? So I can kind of hold that and claim them as my own, do you know what I mean? From my kind of youth and early adulthood. But if I'm being sensible and mature about it, I probably, if it was up to me, I'd probably want to see them get back together. But if they were just going to tour and not record, I'm not interested. I just don't care. If they're going to record music, you know, albums, and many of them, absolutely, I'd be on board. As well as, you know, doing that in tandem with their solo stuff. There's no need for Liam to stop doing his solo stuff. There's no need for Noel to stop doing his High Flying Bird stuff. They can still do that as side projects, but do Oasis as well. I'd like to see that, but that's just my opinion. Question number 2. With the Kickstarter being such a success for the new Shenmue game, what would you spend the 7 million or so raised remaking? Modern or retro game? Oh, sorry, let me rephrase that. Modern or retro game, Bluetonic Studios have been given the green light to commence work. Well, I'll tell you what, if I've been given 7 million quid, I'm off ski, mate. I'm doing a runner, going to the Bahamas, and nobody's seeing that money. I'm off. Nice house, several cars, just living the life of Riley. But if I had to put it into making games, if I couldn't steal it, bloody hell, not very nice of you not allowing me to be a thief. If I had to put it into a game, I'd say maybe something like a Road Rash. I'm flabbergasted we've not seen a Road Rash game. There was a game called Road Rage that came out, which was on a pickup vid of mine, maybe late last year on the Xbox One. Again, when I was going through my Xbox One phase. And I think it was late last year anyway. And the game's rubbish. It's nothing like Road Rash. It really isn't. It's a rubbish game. It's a cheap game. I think it's like $20 retail or something like that. 25, 30 maybe. So Road Rage came out. It wasn't very good and all the rest of it. I'm just surprised there's not been a Road Rash. Also, I'd love to see a Ridge Racer game. A new standalone Ridge Racer. Or maybe just a remake. You know, we're living in the era now. The dawn of the remake. We've had Resident Evil recently. The Last of Us, as I touched upon before. Many, many others. And I'd like to see Ridge Racer, the original PlayStation 1, redone on the PlayStation 4. And last but not least, we've got question number 3 from Sean. With the amazing quality Portsmouth players that City ended up buying during the 90s, in brackets Lee Bradbury or Badbuy, who was your favourite City player whilst growing up? Yeah, Lee Bradbury was known as Lee Badbuy because, well, obviously he wasn't a very good purchase. He was signed for, I think, £3.5 million. Sean, you and your team must have been laughing to the bank. Seriously, you just didn't do very well at all. Again, hence Badbuy. He started the following season, I think, all right. 98-99, he started it okay, but he just wasn't up to it. Just really wasn't up to it. At least from memory, I thought he did. He scored like a few goals. Anyway, so there's Lee Bradbury. Who else was there? Fitzroy Simpson, Paul Walsh, of course. Kit Simmons. Again, just rubbish, really. 95-96, he joined the club. City got relegated. 96-97 was mid-table. 97-98, he was captain for basically all of it. Relegated. It's just useless. So, yeah. In fact, was he stripped of his captaincy? Wasn't he stripped of his captaincy? Or maybe he was injured and Jamie Pollock, I seem to remember, wearing the armband. He was rubbish as well. Scored a great own goal, though, against Bolton. No, QPR. It's QPR. So, anyway, enough of that. Yeah, we've had some rubbish and some good players from Portsmouth in the past. My favourite City player, there's kind of two spring to mind of two slightly different eras. The first one is David White. I absolutely love David White. Running, sprinting down the right wing, an attacking midfielder, winger, forward, striker, scored a lot of goals, created a lot, put a wicked mean cross into the box for the likes of whoever it would have been now, Quinn. And just a brilliant player. He looked cool as well. He's put on a lot of weight now, like a lot of footballers do, of course, and I mean a lot of weight. But he's still a top lad, a top guy. And I tell you what made me laugh the other day and smile with pride, if you like. It's a bit geeky, but I'll share it anyway. I'll put a picture maybe as well. Is David White has released a book, like I think come out last year, and I was going to get it, but I didn't, and I will get it. But he put a tweet out quite recently, and he's like, if anyone wants a signed book, for I think it's like 20 quid, he says, drop me a DM or send me an email or leave a comment, whatever, and I'll get back to you. And I read that, and I was like, well, he's a legend. I've got to have a signed book by David White. I've just got to. And it's obviously David White. He's sort of, well, he's this era, isn't he? From this era, from this shirt and 91, 92, 93, all that kind of stuff. Shockingly sold to Leeds, but annoyed me at the time, but never mind. Anyway, so David White put out this tweet, like I say, and I replied to it, and I was going to pick, well, you'll see, I'll put the tweet up. It was something along the lines of, I was going to buy that anyway, but the chance to have it signed by a legend or something, just sucking up to him a little bit. But I was telling the truth. I was like, it's too good to turn down. And he liked it. He liked the tweet. I was like, I can't believe it. And he replied to my tweet. And just the fact that he replied and he typed it out and he was like, hi, Alex. David White typed my name out. And he was like, I've made it. That's it. I could just quit Twitter tomorrow. Honestly, it doesn't matter anymore. I could just leave. My childhood dreams kind of been made. And it was just brilliant. And then he sent me an email as well, actually, because I gave him my email address. He sent me an email. Now, he sent me just a stock email. The only difference is clearly he typed hi and put my name Alex, because not everyone in the world is called Alex. But the rest of the email was very much a stock email as to what to do to get this book and who to send the money to and all that kind of stuff. Which is fine, of course. I wasn't expecting a personal email, obviously. It's just the fact that he typed my name out twice and liked one of my tweets. David White. Couldn't believe it. So there's him, without question. Niall Quinn. I love Niall Quinn. He's a legend. And many, many others. But David White and the other one, King Clancy. Georgie King Clancy was, oh my God, what a genius. What a genius. A shining light, a shining beacon in desperate times for City. The mid-90s, the mid to late 90s were just so awful on the pitch. They were so awful. But remarkably, they're some of my fondest years of following the club. Bizarrely. They were so, maybe it's because they were so bad. And it's a sign of, it shows you how much of a fan you are if you follow a club going through that turmoil. And they were so bad. It was unbelievable. The dross that was served up was something else. And I'm quite proud of that in a way. It's ridiculous, just a football team, but I'm quite proud that I saw them through that rubbish time. And yeah, it was a good time. I can look back at all those games and the footage and interviews and read up on it, and it makes me quite nostalgic. The mid to late 90s, even though the team were rubbish. But King Clancy on the pitch was amazing. He could fit into any team. He'd fit into any City team, even now. So thank you, Sean. Thank you, everyone who's asked a question. The video has clearly gone on a long time. I don't do short vids, but at least it's not gone on for 1 hour 50 minutes, or 1 hour 40 minutes. It's been a little bit less. It's always going to be an hour or thereabouts. It always is going to creep over that, really. But there we are. Now, I'll be back shortly with a pickup vid. I may record that tomorrow, or I may even do it today. Probably going to be tomorrow. They may be uploaded on the same day, if not within a few days. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and sorry for disappearing for 2 months. It may happen again in the future. If it does, I'm just having another break, that's all it is. I'm still about on Twitter and wherever else. But anyway, until my next vid, take it easy. See you later.